SOMO and JOMO are like in the present, and I think that FOMO and ROMO are this anticipatory thing. So it's
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, sign up for more support with meeting your needs with your weekly Universal Needs notes at theuniversalneeds.com.
And enjoy the show.
hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone. We're super cute if you're on the video.
We done it again.
We didn't plan
I didn't
it.
even notice it.
I noticed it the second we got on, and I'm like, you know what? If she doesn't say anything, I have to bring it up because if you look back at our videos the last couple of times, like there is no planning. We're in two totally different areas of the country right now, like, and we've shown up very much like ready for our Sears photo.
Twinning.
Just feel so like we need to do the
well, like Sears catalog kind of.
Yeah, I always call it the look up at Nan. The dark humor coming. Little trigger warning right there. But I've always called it the dead Nana. Like, look up at dead Nana. Like, it's like back in the day, they used to have this effect that they put on photos, and the photos were dark, and you're in front of like a dark background, and sometimes there was a little bit of a color glow, and then there was a hazy picture of somebody who died in the corner, and it's like, and the people are either, a lot of times it was that, like the fist to elbow, fist under chin, but it was always like a longing gaze to the corner, and so like that's what it makes me think of, is the look up at dead Nana.
And the funny thing is that when we were recording in the same place, if we put the same color on, normally one of us would be like, "Oh, okay, we'll change it up." Yeah, apparently, we're still in each other's brains, even though we are thousands of miles apart. Oh dear. And also I have to recant something that I said on the last podcast, which actually feeds nicely into what we're talking about today, because I said I was going to be doing the walking parade on Friday, and the universe had other plans. I did not do the walking parade. I was in bed with a fever instead. Yes. And that, as I said, kind of segues a little bit into what it is that we're going to be talking about today. Do you want to kind of, because it was your thought of like, let's do this episode today, so I want to kind of give you the floor in terms of like, where did this come from? What made you think about doing a podcast on this?
Well, if you've been listening to the last couple episodes, we've had a lot of the intros are involve Claire's, like what's going on for Fantasy Fest with Claire. And if you've been a longtime viewer and listener, you know that Fantasy Fest is our jam. We love dressing up. We love the festivities. It's just a good time. It's something really unique to our island. And we tend to go a little overboard, burn ourselves out, be completely done at the end. But we are not talking about that aspect of it quite yet. So here, talking about it on the podcast, and then I go on my Facebook feed, and if anybody follows me, I am not super active. Like, social media just isn't really my thing. And I do like to try and kind of keep up with what's going on, and my feed has been flooded for the last week with Fantasy Fest things. Like, it's just costumes and like glitter and neon and glow. I mean, it's all sorts of fabulousness. Yeah, and it's all the things that I love. It's the snapshots of the most fun moments. And there's a part of me that has like this FOMO, and like people are texting me and they're like, "Oh, it's not the same without you."
And if people don't know what FOMO is
the fear of missing out. So there's like this, and it's not really at that point the fear of missing out, because there's no real way for me to be in that moment. I mean, there are ways I could, Zoom, I could FaceTime somebody, but like that wouldn't be the same. it was kind of like a sadness of missing out. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
those are good times. Oh, I wish I was there. Like, oh, I wish I could have seen that in person. Like all of these kind of like, oh, like I feel like that was
Little
the feeling.
twinges.
Yeah, little twinges of awe. And I was so happy to see my friends having such a good time, which then made me happy. Like it was a really weird, like emotional roller coaster. If you go back to, I
Conflict
think it was
of emotions.
our last episode on the emotional. It was our last episode. We'll throw the link in. The ups and downs, like they weren't high. It was a very uneventful roller coaster, but it was like like there was a lot of those emotions. But every time I had that kind of FOMO emotion, what immediately came, it almost like barreled through the FOMO and was like, it's me instead. And it was JOMO, which is the joy of missing out. Every single
Mhm.
time I saw something, it was like, that looks like so much fun. They're going to be so tired in the morning. I'm going to bed at 9:30 tonight. Watch me fucking adult. Like, and it was so weird because like Fantasy Fest would fuel me. Like, I mean, there was just something
Mhm.
about it. Like I'd get so into it. And like I said, especially last year, if you followed along with us, like we did ourselves in last Fantasy Fest and it wasn't enjoyable at the end. Like we got to the end of it and we were just like that. I mean, whatever that sound is in your
Oh,
mind,
yeah.
like that's what we were, because we were so
Oh,
many
yeah.
different things.
Oh, I mean, I would say that sound times 100 is where we were last year. Like it was
we were
like,
so tired we couldn't make that sound. It was
right,
just
like, it
our
was
tongue
like,
like
it was like done on top of done on top of done on top of done. Plus I actually got really sick before Fantasy Fest last
Mhm.
year. And because we had so many commitments, did not heed the warnings that my system was giving me, and ended up being really sick for several months,
Mhm.
like for a long period of time. It was a rough one last year.
I feel like Fantasy Fest was like 12 months last year. Like it was an entire
Oh
year
God,
of
it felt like it.
up to, during, and then recovering. Like it did. It felt like it took us months to recover from that Fantasy Fest. And maybe
Right.
that's why that kind of JOMO came in so quickly after every time I saw something. I'm like, you know, there is an aspect of me that really wanted to be there and would have loved to have been part of all the festivities. And there is, at this moment, I almost think it's a bigger part. Like I haven't really dropped into it, but a bigger part of me that's like, wow, my life was really chaotic right now. And up until Fantasy Fest, my life has been really chaotic. If I had tried to like slide Fantasy Fest
Oh
into this
God.
chaos, I don't even want to go there and think about like where I would be at. But there's this nice feeling that I've really been able to kind of embrace the JOMO with this situation where I'm
Mhm.
like, you know what? I'm so glad that I'm getting to rest this year. I don't know what next year holds for me, but like this year I get to rest. This year I'm not adding anything else to my plate. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
incorrigible if you haven't been able to tell. If I was
Oh, can confirm.
if I was in Key West for Fantasy Fest, like I could do it down a little bit, maybe, possibly. Like I think Claire went a little minimalist this year, like with her costumes. Like they were a little easier. There were some reuses. Like I could have done that. Anybody who knows me is like bullshit. Like my minimal effort is still too much sometimes
Most
when I'm
people's
trying to
extra.
yeah, when I'm trying to take it easy. But like we really just wanted to talk. Not a lot of people, we hear FOMO, and maybe this is the first time you've heard it, but there's a lot of like, that's something I've heard a lot throughout the last, I think
Mhm.
the last couple of years. It's, or maybe this was a buzzword that was in the past and nobody uses it anymore, but I still do.
Well, and it's really interesting, like looking at this year. This year's like kind of a good example of the there's two sides of the coin, and I think that that's the thing, is that very rarely is any situation just one thing. Like very rarely is a situation ever just, oh my God, this was incredible, and there was no downside to it. Like, I mean, when I think about some of the shenanigans that Serena and I have got up to over the years, I mean, one that comes to mind as a particular highlight was the 27.5 hour celebration that we did for my October 12th Celebrate Being Alive Day one day. Was it amazing? Yes. Was it epic? Did we do incredible things? Yes. were we done at the end of it for probably a good week afterwards? Yes. Like, so it's like, I think that's the thing, is that we tend to look at things as one thing or another. And like, I mean, look at this year of Fantasy Fest for me has been a very good example of this. As Serena said, I also have been dealing with a lot recently. And I was like, there are certain things at Fantasy Fest I would like to do. And I'm going to do them in a low effort way. Because if anybody knows me well, they know last year I really did burn myself out. Like, last year was, and there were extenuating circumstances last year. So if you listen to the podcast, you'll know Serena had some stuff going on, which meant that I kind of took on more. I had more than I expected to on my plate as far as the Fantasy Fest prep was involved. And we had performances and all kinds of different things involved in it. It was a lot. So this year I was like, I would like to still do some of it, but also I'm going to do a low effort version of it. And it was so funny. There were so many people I spoke to this year who were like, oh my God, this is my favorite time of the year. And I'm like, really? I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some fun aspects to Fantasy Fest. But the good thing is, living where we live, you could do that on a Tuesday. Like, you want to dress up and wear glitter, you do it any day of the week and it's fine. And you don't have to do it surrounded by the chaos that is thousands of tourists descending on the island
so many people, me, so much glitter.
It was like, I was like, favorite time of the this is not what I would describe as my favorite time of the year. Do I enjoy some of the things that are involved in Fantasy Fest? Yes. But I was like, okay, so how are we going to do this? So every event that I went to, I had a costume that I already had or just tweaked slightly, or it was a rewear basically. But even the events that I did, so I had 4 events planned. Now, given the fact that I have barely been out recently, 4 events in a week is big for me. That was more than I'd probably done in the last month. So I had the zombie bike ride, I had the tutu party, I had the headdress ball, which I was working as a fairy gay mother, and I had the walking parade. So those are the 4 that I was going to do.
Do you realize how ridiculous that's? I was taking it easy this year, and I only did this one.
I mean, first point right there. Like that's the first thing that's worth kind of mentioning about this.
The first year I did 7 days, and I did 2 costumes some of the days. I was like, no, I want to do both of these. No.
Yeah, we've been there. I think I've done 6 days before. And then actually there was a full moon party the day that I wasn't at a Fantasy Fest thing. So I was still out. I mean, I went and chilled actually and ended up watching bioluminescence at the end of the pier, which is kind of cool because I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this today. I'm going to go and chill by myself for a bit. But even these events that were great events, and some of them were great events, zombie bike ride, we've talked about this. The ride itself was good. There were some moments of the ride that were very ew. Okay. And then we got to the end of the ride, and it all went a bit like, meh. It was all a little bit like anticlimactic. Like, where did everybody go? What are we doing? I came home after the ride. That's what I did. And so, yeah, it was I'm glad I went. I was really pleased with my costume and my makeup. I was really thrilled with how it all came out. I did the ride itself, and then that was it. But the other side of the ride was a little bit like, oh, that's a bit of a letdown. And then
even the ride, like the ride is more of like a walking with your bike and then like pedaling for half a foot, and then
yes. Yeah.
So the term ride is used very, very loosely.
It was the zombie bike walk for me. I mean, it really was. I mean, and also I have an e-bike, and I couldn't use it with power because it was going so slow. I couldn't ride. I was having to ride an e-bike. Now, if you've ever ridden an e-bike without power, those things are fucking heavy. So it was a interesting, right? It was fun, and I saw some friends, and it was good to, like, the energy was great. For most of it, I said there were some sections, so I'm like, oh, I could have done without that. Okay, moving on. So that's what I did, moved on. And then after that, it was a little bit like, meh. And then we went to the Tutu Tuesday party. Now, I don't know why everybody loves Tutu Tuesday. Tutu Tuesday for me is never really that fun. Like, I want to enjoy it. I want to have fun. I had a fantastic costume this year because it was a one that I had from previously. And so many people commented on my costume, like, oh my God, you look so amazing. Like, you like such a good Alice, or like, oh my God, your makeup's beautiful. Like, I had like really good, although people need to do their fucking research on pop culture. Dorothy wears gingham, not just blue. Like, the amount of people like, oh yeah, Dorothy, like, where's your basket? I'm like, what basket? Dorothy, right? No, Alice.
Oh, people thought you were Dorothy?
People thought I was Dorothy. I had multiple people thinking I was Dorothy. And I'm like, one, I'm not wearing ruby slippers. Two, I don't have
silver.
gingham.
Or silver slippers. Joe always comments, he's like, well, if you're really a Wizard of Oz fan, they're silver.
Silver slippers. I didn't have a basket. I didn't have Toto. Like, I mean, if you know me, I commit to a costume. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly. This is not...
It was a proper, I mean, I bought the costume. It was a proper Alice
costume.
People. There's a lot of things going around at Fantasy Fest that made me.
Well, there was one guy who was like, "I am such a dumbass." I'm like, I mean, you're not the only one. I mean, literally, I must have had
company.
I must have had at least 5 or 6 people comment about Dorothy, and I'm like, it's not gingham. Like, anyway, yes.
And then you get, what's gingham?
Didn't that go? I'm like, if there's a tornado hanging out next to me, maybe, but no, anyway. I've always wanted to enjoy Tutu. And I bought my ticket early this year, so I'm like, I'm going to go along. And it was fine. I would have been just as happy not to have gone, honestly. It was nice to see I saw some friends that I liked, which was great. The music really wasn't my vibe, and there wasn't a venue. And I was saying this to, I said this to, I think it was my mum I was talking to yesterday. I'm like, they really should have different music. They've got 4 different venues. They should have a different music at each venue. So you should have like cheesy pop music in one. You should have house in another. You should have electronica in another. So you know where to go to find the music that you enjoy.
That's what they did the first year when we really enjoyed. There was one year, the first year we all went together. And that might be the problem. We had the most badass year. The venue was perfect. They split up the music. So it's like, no, I want electronic music. You went upstairs. If you wanted that cheesy dance music, like.
And we busted out. I mean, it was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I mean, even the second year was okay, because eventually we lucked into a place that had good music. And that was the thing, is we lucked into it. We didn't plan on it. We didn't know where it was going to be. And I mean, anybody who knows me knows I can bop along to pretty much anything. But if I'm going to really enjoy it, I want music that I'm going to really enjoy. So we were there for, I don't know, an hour, maybe 2. I've lost track of time. And then we ended up having to leave to a friend of ours was going to get painted and what have you. We ended up at one of the bars, which we frequent pretty frequently. I enjoyed being at the bar more than I enjoyed being at the events, because 1, I wasn't having to deal with music that really wasn't my jam. 2, I saw so many people there that I loved, and I spent time just hanging and chatting with the people. That was what I enjoyed, was spending time with those people. It was fine, but it wasn't like, oh my God, that was such a good night. And everybody is always out. And I said to one of the friends that one of our mutual friends that I was there with, I'm like, how is it possible that I know all these people that are coming to Tutu Tuesday, and yet I never see anyone I know at Tutu Tuesday? Like, it's
right.
Weird. Like, everyone you know is out that night and you don't see anybody. It's bizarre. So again, it was fine, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is amazing. The headdress ball was fun, but it was a lot of work that I was not anticipating, and it was very tiring. And then I ended up not going to the walking parade anyway because I was sick. So like, when you look at this week, everyone posts this is the thing, is that everybody posts on social media their highlight reel of the week. And did I have some highlights this week? Yes. Did I get to spend some time with people I don't normally see? Yes. Did I get to hang out with people who I love? Yes. Did we get to throw glitter on ourselves and dress up and all the things that we love to do? Yes. Was there a lot in between that where I'm like, meh, okay. Yes, there was. And that's the thing is that, and I think that what ends up happening is that when you have the fear of missing out, a lot of the time it's put the needs lens on it for a second. If our needs are not currently well met, what we do is we transpose ourselves into the highlight reel of the people who are doing whatever the thing is that we're doing. And we imagine how our needs would be met if we were in that circumstance. But because our needs are unmet and we see these highlights, which look like people's needs are being met, we only focus on, well, I'm not feeling that right now, and they are feeling that right now. But that's not the whole story. That's only a fraction of the story. And I'm going to tell you now, I have lost count of the amount of couples arguments I have witnessed this week. Like,
yeah,
I have seen
Fantasy
so
Fest
many.
brings it. Speaking from experience, Fantasy Fest brings it out.
Like, I mean, we arrived at, like, I went out last night for a quote unquote quiet dinner with friends, which ended up becoming a 3-venue tour to see some of my favorite people, which I loved because I'm leaving town in a couple of days. So it was good to go and see people. We got to Bobby's Monkey Bar, which if you are a regular listener, you know is the only karaoke place, our main karaoke place that we love. It's like our Cheers here in Key West. And when we got there was a couple outside arguing. Now, we got there about 9:30. And I have to I'm like, it is way too early in the evening for this kind of drama. Like if you're at this point in the evening, just go to bed, just go home. Like that's like, just call it a night. That's probably it's probably going to get worse on that point. And that's the thing is that people aren't posting that on their social media. They're not posting the arguments they've had with their partner. And I saw couples I know having issues, and I saw the photos they posted of that night. That was one side of the story from the night. It was not the whole story by any stretch of the imagination. And so that's the thing is that what we do is we take this like tiny snapshot of a moment in time that somebody else is experiencing. And it may not even be what they're experiencing. How many times have you been out and someone's going, oh, let's take a picture. And you're like, oh God, I'm exhausted. Can I go home? Picture. Oh, geez.
I don't do that.
And you'll look like you're having the best time of your life. Now, you might be,
but
you also might not be.
We talked about that a couple of, it wasn't a couple, it was back many episodes about the last kind of month that I was in Key West, where people were like, oh, it looks like you're having the most amazing time. You're hanging out, you're partying, you're doing all these things. I'm like, they were lucky to get smiles out of me during those pictures because I was working. Like that was work. We had fun too. And that was the thing. And I had to explain to a couple of people who were kind of salty because I'm like, I am so busy. Like I need to prioritize this. And then they see these highlight reels and they're like, well, how busy are you? You're out there throwing confetti, aren't you? And I'm like, that is fun work, but that is still work. And like, if anybody knows me, like I hear camera and I'm like, hey. But it's just it naturally happens to me. So like every picture, it's very rare you're going to get a picture of me where there's like, it's a totally candid shot that I'm like not posing. And so Claire brings up a good point with that. Like that highlight reel
it can screw some people over. And I'm as you were talking then, I've just suddenly realized that there are 3 types of OMOs. So we have FOMO, which is fear of missing out, SOMO, which is sadness of missing out, and JOMO, which is joy of missing out. Because the fear of missing out normally isn't happening when it's happening. Like it's like, oh God, I'm afraid if I don't go to this, I'm gonna miss out on something. Like it's that anticipation that if I go to this thing, and as usual, all of this is subconscious. We're not, well, unless you're me or Serena or you've gone through the program where you're able to go, oh, I'm afraid that I'm not going to get this need met, and I'm afraid that if I went I would get this need met, and therefore that's why I'm wanting to go, but also maybe there's a reason I shouldn't be going. So basically what's happening is that we're considering a situation, and I actually think that that's probably what happened with Tutu for me this year. As I said, my experience with Tutu is not robust. I mean, I have been here for 7 years now, maybe 8. I think it's maybe my 8th. It's 7 or 8 fantasy fests that I've done. I mean, with the exception of the one that I missed because of COVID. But that also didn't happen very much for anyone else either. So it was like, anyway. the first tutu, as Serena said, was a great night. We had a fantastic night. There were some elements about that night that weren't so great because the person I was there with was acting like an asshole. Something new and different for him. Oh, did I say that? No, that was that was a very toxic. That was like that. Like that was not my best choices, but that was a very toxic relationship, and it was very common for there to be some kind of issue that was created, or that he created within dynamics when we were out and about, especially when I was having fun. I think that was also a very common thing. Like he would kind of cause issues. Anyway, that to one side. We had a really good, like Serena and I had a great time that night, and we were like busting out moves on the dance floor. I mean, there had to have been some Britney that night. Like she and I were like living our best prom life, as that was the theme for that year's. But every other year after that, I've been like, it's okay, but it's not really a hugely great night. But then when the tickets came up, I was like, I don't like last year I didn't get to go because I was exhausted and slammed with everything else I was doing. And the year before that, I was like, it's not really the night that I have the best fun. So I did make the decision the year before to be like, you know what, I'm checking out of this one. I'm not going to go to this one. Plus I had some pretty major stuff that I was dealing with at that point as well. And so, but I think that's what happened when the ticket came up. I was like, I think I'm going to want to go this year, and I'm going to want to have fun with people, and that's why I bought the ticket. And then because I bought the ticket, I'm like, well, I kind of like feel like I have to go now. Like it would feel like a waste to have bought the ticket and not go. And so that's why I bought the ticket. So it was this like there was a part of me that was like, if I don't go to this, there is a part of me that feels like I'm going to be missing out somewhat on some things that would get my needs met. Then the sadness of missing out is where you can see something else. Like it's when it's actively happening, and it's like you can see somebody else experiencing it, and there's a part of you like, oh, I wish I was doing that. So one is like that anticipation of something. The other is like, actually, I wish I was there right now. And there are going to be some moments. I know that over the next couple of months, I'm about to go and step onto a boat in 3 days' time and spend the next couple of months on a boat. I know that there is some holiday themed events that are going to be happening here that part of me is going to really be sad not to be here and not to be experiencing. But on balance, yes, am I going to be sad to not experiencing those things? Yes. But are the benefits to me doing the other things that I'm doing and not being here greater? Yeah, also yes. So it's like, and that's the thing is like, when it comes to the kind of sadness of missing out, it's okay to acknowledge there's a part of you that wishes that you were doing those things because there's a part of you that would enjoy those things. And it might be that there is another part of you that is also glad to not be doing those things. So that's where we'll get onto that in a second. But it's like, it's okay to acknowledge that. And it's okay that like there's a part of you that's like, yeah, I'm kind of sad not to be able to be there. Like it happens with me being so far away from my family. There are things that they get to do. And I'm like, oh, like it would be nice if I could be there to be able to enjoy those things as well. And I've made the choice to go live on a tropical island. And there are benefits to being here and the lifestyle I have here that are the reason I'm choosing this over being in a situation where I'd be able to do all those things all the time. Same thing with Serena and like what she's doing right now. It's like, yes, there is like sadness because she misses out sometimes on the things that she gets to do here, but there's a reason that they're living the life that they're living right now on the road because there are benefits to doing that she wouldn't have if she was still here on the island. So the third option is the joy of missing out. And the joy of missing out, generally speaking, is where we're understanding, and this tends to happen when you have a better understanding of your needs, where it's like, I get that there is and even in the joy of missing out, sometimes it might be there's a part of us like, oh, I kind of wish I was doing that. But what happens is that there's a bigger part of us that is really connecting to the enjoyment we're getting from the things that we are doing that we wouldn't be able to do if we were doing the thing. So like Serena was saying, like the joy of missing out is like, I'm in bed at 9:30 and I know I would not be in bed at 9:30 if I was doing all that stuff right now. And it's like, that doesn't mean to say, and these don't sit in isolation. It's not like you're only on FOMO, you're only on SOMO, or you're only on JOMO. It's like, you can be like, there can be like SOMO and JOMO often like work together. And it's like, it's like that whole, my brain's working on some other content while I'm trying to discuss this, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm trying to figure something out, and my brain's like, talk about the thing you're talking about, Claire. So like a lot of times SOMO and JOMO will sit in conjunction with each other, where it's like maybe there's a little bit of SOMO, but there's a huge amount of JOMO. And sometimes maybe there's a little bit of JOMO and there's a bigger amount of SOMO, and that's actually okay. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the situation. It's about acknowledging how we are feeling. And sometimes we don't necessarily make the right choices. And sometimes we do something because we think it's going to be better for us. And actually we're like, well, yeah, I'm getting to do this. And part of me feels like this actually would have met my needs better. Like the thing that I haven't done might be meeting my needs better. The better connected you get to your needs, though, the better you understand your needs, the more likely you're going to be in having a larger experience of JOMO than you are SOMO, because what you're probably going to be doing is like the JOMO, the joy of missing out is the joy you get to experience from how well your needs are met by not doing something. The SOMO is like the sadness you're feeling from the need benefit you're not getting because you're not doing the thing. And so the better you understand your needs, and the better you can kind of tune into what things are likely to better meet your needs, the more likely that you're going to experience JOMO going forward than it is SOMO. Does that make sense?
I believe so.
Well, so the additional thing, I'm going to speak this on the microphone. I don't have like a cool term for it yet, but I actually think that there is there's a counterpart to FOMO as well. And I think that what happens is that people think that FOMO and JOMO are like the opposites of each other. But I think one is anticipatory and the other one is
well,
is
like, is
present.
it the anticipation? Is it like AOMO?
Well, what I was thinking is almost like the relief of missing out. It's like that. So one is like I'm afraid I'm going to miss out. The other is I'm relieved because I'm not going to do the thing that is probably going to compromise my needs. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's ROMO. Maybe it's FOMO and ROMO.
There was ROMO in my situation, and it's funny. Like, do you have anything else? Do you have anything else with ROMO?
just I think that I said, because I think SOMO and JOMO are like in the present, and I think that FOMO and ROMO are this anticipatory thing. So it's like one is I'm afraid that by missing out that my needs are going to get compromised. ROMO is I'm relieved because I'm making a decision that that is not going to compromise my needs when I get to that point in time. So I don't have, like, I think that the FOMO and ROMO are very much tied to anxiety. So in the sense that FOMO being this kind of fear that by not doing this thing is the anxiety kicks in of like, oh, I'm my needs are going to be compromised by not doing this thing. The ROMO is I don't have anxiety anymore because the anxiety would be about doing the thing. And the ROMO is, oh, actually, I get to feel relief. I'm not feeling anxious in the lead up to this thing because I've made the choice to not do the thing that would compromise my needs.
I'm really glad that you identified the ROMO, because that was part of it too. Because even in anticipation, there was that kind of FOMO, like, oh, it's Fantasy Fest, I'm going to miss out. And it's like, oh, it's Fantasy Fest. Oh my God, it's going to be like the first year in 7 years that I am not completely like engulfed in it, like, yeah. And that's the thing, like, it's interesting because you mentioned a couple of times you don't understand those people who are like, Fantasy Fest, it's my favorite time of year. I say that. However, during this conversation, something kind of came about, like, that kind of triggered in my mind. It was like, Fantasy Fest, like, fall has been my favorite time of year since I can remember. You got the trees changing, you get sweaters, like the food that's around. You have Halloween. I've always been into costumes. Like
freaking bats. I love Halloween. If you don't know the viral video, just Google "it's freaking bats." I love Halloween, and there's a little viral video of a little girl that I just adore, and everything is "it's freaking bats" right now. I love Halloween.
And as somebody who considered like it's the witchy time of year, which I just love for so many reasons. Then Fantasy Fest was always on my bucket list. I never knew that I was going to get there. I never intended on living in Key West, and yeah, so I always thought that was kind of oh, that may happen. And then I moved there, and Fantasy Fest was this week-long Halloween, and you've probably heard me say it before. It's when Mardi Gras, Halloween, have a baby and banish it to an island. That is Fantasy Fest. A lot of fun. That first year was just, I mean, there weren't any real plans. There was like, it just kind of all happened. None of us really knew what we were doing. Like all of the costumes, there was no big group costumes or anything like that. So that was all kind of organic and a little bit last minute. And there wasn't a lot of time to get swirled up in it. And that was one of the most fun years that I've had at Fantasy Fest. Don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of fun all of the years at different moments.
Oh, we've had many Fantasy Fest shenanigans that have been a lot of fun. Absolutely. In amongst other stuff.
That. And the first year we did, like I said, we did 7 days of things. And some of the days we decided to do 1, 2, 3 parties. Like, I didn't know that I was going to be in fifth. I didn't know that this wasn't going to be my last Fantasy Fest. And I was like, I'm going to do it. Fine.
I remember, I think that you were at a party. I think the rest of us were at trivia one of the nights, and you like popped into trivia, and I'm like, I don't even know how you're still doing it. Yeah.
at a bar that it was at that our favorite little Irish bar there. And that place is just like, it just gets filled with tourists, and it's too small for as many people. So I went there and I was getting elbowed in the head. Yeah, I was not drunk enough for that crowd. I'm too short for that crowd. And it was like sardine can. There was nothing like that. That wasn't fun for me, but I didn't seem to remember that when I was getting like the anticipation for the next year. And I'm like, I only remembered the highlight reel. And the first year was mostly highlight reel. The second year, I started planning costumes. One costume went super easy. We were zombies. It was easily executed. It looked awesome. The other one, I started going a little bit overboard. Looked fantastic, but our unicorns on parade had a little bit more personal touches. And it was stressful, and it was down to the wire. And that was the first year I was like, I'm not going to do this again. The next year comes up. Fantasy Fest, my favorite time of year. We're going to plan costumes. This is what the costume is this year. Okay, so we do this again, down to the wire with things, you know, as Fantasy Fest is. I don't remember that the next year. Fantasy Fest, my favorite time of year. Now, last year, I went into it being like, maybe it's not my favorite time of year. Like, we're really busy during this time of year. It's a lot of work, and we were focused on work last year, like working as in like philanthropy, working within our community, working on our business. And it all kind of clustered onto Fantasy Fest of like, oh my God, we're doing a lot of things right now. And last year was the first year that there was relief in the things that we weren't going to do, because both of us were like, you know what? No, we're not going to even try that. And there was like, once we decided, it was like, okay, like, I don't think we're going to miss out. But there's these parts that it's like, oh, we have to go to this party, because what if like, maybe this year is the year it's going to be like the first year. And it's like, right. Has it ever been like that first year? And was that first year, when we think about it, more than just a highlight reel in our mind? So it's kind of funny as you were talking, I'm like, last year was the first year I really like that relief first popped in. It was very small. The Romo was small last year because I was still in the thick of it, and I didn't get as much joy of missing out, because I didn't really miss out on much except for sleep and sanity. Sorry, I'm gonna cancel, clear, delete that, but like, feeling like my thoughts were just in my head together.
I'm gonna say your mental health took a hit last year. Like, I think sleep, like for your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, like all of those took a hit.
Yes, absolutely. And then this year, the two feelings that more than the FOMO, more than the SOMO, was the ROMO, the relief of missing out. Is that what we're calling it? And the joy of missing out, because as we were talking about Claire getting set up, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about getting costumes together this year. Oh, I'm so glad that like zombie bike ride, that used to be one of the days that I absolutely loved. And it was like, I woke up like at, I think maybe like 9:30, and I was like, I don't have to do anything today. And I was really able to attach it. And there was a part of me that so badly wanted to be there, but there was like, I knew I was taking care of myself, and especially in a time where things are so chaotic in my daily life. Like, I thought about, oh, I can fly back for a week. Oh my, like, I can only imagine what that would have done. Like, it would have positively impacted a lot of my needs, but it would have more negatively impacted my needs and had a longer tick over effect, after the fact. And I think that's what we don't necessarily think of when we're in those moments of fear of missing out and sadness of missing out. It's like, what's the knock on? Like, you might be in the moment and be able to experience this stuff, but what's the knock on effect of that? And is that worth it as well?
Well, I actually think I think that the kind of like goes alongside the thing that's been in my mind as you were talking, which is like all of those people who are like, Fantasy Fest is my favorite time of year. Is that because it's actually their favorite time of year, or is it because they're anticipating it's going to be the best version of that time of year? Not because they're actually, and I think that the cool thing about where you and I have got to with this is that we're looking at the wholeness of things. We're not looking at it expecting it to be one thing and it becomes something else. It's like we're looking at it, looking at the wholeness of it and being like, yeah, this is going to be, I said to Serena, like when we talked about the zombie bike ride, I'm like, you know what? No longer am I expecting the zombie bike ride to be anything beyond the ride. And actually what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to do the thing that I used to do, which is that I would come and do the ride and then I would circle back up and then I'd do a little bit more of the ride again and do like the main like thoroughfare of it twice, because that was fun. And then I'm going to go home because that is the thing that I enjoy about the zombie bike ride.
Going home.
The ride part. Although I have to say, when I was on my way home, when I was on my way home this year, I was like, yes, this is the right thing. This is right for me to be going home at this point. And like the same thing with the tutu party. I think everybody expects tutu to be the best party of the year. And I go in expecting it to be pretty mediocre, if I'm being really honest. And it was, so I wasn't disappointed. And actually I got a little bonus because I got to go to one of my favorite bars and see a bunch of my favorite people. And I'm like, actually, this is the thing I really love. And I'm actually thinking like next year, I may not get a ticket for tutu. What I may actually do is just dress up and wear a tutu and wander around Duval and go to a couple of the bars that I love. That might be what I do for tutu next year, because the actual party really isn't that great as far as I'm concerned for what I like. Now, are there other people who love it? Yes. I'm not saying it's not a good event. I'm just saying it's not a good event for me, in my experience. Now, if they decided to turn around and between this time and next year, they go, right, one of these venues is going to be cheesy pop music all night. Now I might buy a ticket because I'm like, I'm going to go, I'm going to stay there and I'm going to dance because I can be dancing. Exactly. I know where my jam is going to be and I can go there. And if nobody else shows up, I don't see anybody else that night, I can dance in my tutu to my cheesy music by myself and have a perfectly great time. Now, and so it's like looking at the wholeness of things. And I think that's the thing, is that I don't think that we get as disappointed by things anymore because we have realistic expectations of them. And that's where you end up with this kind of balance between the SOMO and the JOMO. And it's like the same thing with the FOMO and the ROMO. It's like, actually, if you're connected to your needs and you understand what your needs are and you understand, okay, if I make this decision, it's probably going to meet this and need to this extent. It's going to compromise this and this need to this extent. And you look at that and you go, let's look at the needs formula. If you haven't heard it already, go back and listen to that episode. We'll put the link in the show notes, where it's like, on balance, this is meeting my needs way more than it is costing them. So it's like, at that point, you're going to experience more ROMO than FOMO. A lot of the FOMO, I think, comes from the anticipation of it being the best version of itself, which, let's face it, how often are things really the best version of themselves? Like, we get it with the holidays every year. Like, how many people are like, oh my God, I love Christmas, it's the best time of the year. And then Christmas Day, it's like, oh, well, there's some elements, maybe not so much. Same thing with Halloween. Same thing with Valentine's Days.
Like families that are like, this is the best time we get together as a family and it's amazing. And then you like take a look at the family dynamics that happen during those times and it's like, can we just call it what it is? And like, like why are we still calling this amazing? Like, and I know
and it could be, okay, we get to connect as a family, but I don't expect it to be some freaking holiday movie version of something with like soft romantic lightning. I mean, it may be like lightning.
Some families.
And it's like where it's like, actually, we get to hang out and that's probably going to be a mixed bag. There's going to be some great things about that. There's some elements of it. It's going to be a shit show. And it's like, if we expect that, and we prepare for it and we preemptively meet the needs that will be potentially compromised by the shit show, and we support the needs that are going to be benefited by the connection, we also get to neutralize some of that. I think sometimes we end up screwing ourselves over because the anticipation of it being so good leaves room for disappointment, and the lack of paying attention to the fact that, let's be honest, this is the pattern here. This is realistically what it's probably going to be. How do we now prepare for that, mitigate it, and protect ourselves so that we don't get compromised so severely if this happens, is the thing that's going to help us to have a much more enjoyable experience overall.
Yeah, definitely that realistic expectation is really important in that, because interestingly enough, on one side of my family, our family dynamic, like we knew, like we all, like it was very familial, but there was definitely personality like disalignments. Like it was pretty obvious. Yeah. And I mean, I grew up kind of, my mom was no bullshit about that. Like there wasn't a lot of sugarcoating as a child.
Anything.
Yeah, that. So it was very aware that she didn't particularly get along with XYZ people, and that there was probably going to be like, we're going to be annoyed because this person is probably going to be doing this. And we kind of went into it like, I feel like as a child, that this is something that I've brought from my childhood, kind of realizing there's a balance. And it's like, I'm not saying it's going to be shit. I was like, I'm just saying that there's probably going to be something that's going to annoy me just as much as something that I'm going to absolutely love. And going into that situation, being aware of that, you're less likely to get severely impact because you've at least mentally prepped yourself. But now being able to prep myself from a needs standpoint and be like, oh, I know what I'm working, like what I'm walking into. And I had a situation last year where I knew what I was walking into, and I resourced the shit out of myself, and I still got barreled over, but I was able to be like, okay, dust myself off, throw my mic on the ground, do what I gotta do. But like, and now being able to utilize that, because I know there's a lot of people that are probably listening, it's like, oh yeah, I find the balance, I know things are going to happen. It's like resourcing yourself before you go into that. All of a sudden, it's not that you're unfazed, but it's like, okay, like,
and it's also, it's resourcing on itself in a needs specific way. Yeah, you can make sure you've got sleep before you go into the things. Yeah, you can make sure you're hydrated. But if you know that one of the needs that's going to get compromised is your value need, you can shore that up before you get in there. So yeah, if it gets impacted, it's not going to take this like massive hit. It's just going to get knocked back down a little bit, and then you can build it back up again. Same thing with the personal power needs. Same thing with like, and this is the thing, is that we think about resourcing ourselves in very one-dimensional ways because we think about it in terms of like our energy levels, not from a needs point of view, where you can look at it and go, okay, here are the needs that are going to get impacted if this plays out the way that it's most likely to play out. And now how do I support each of those needs so that they are more robust going into this than they would have been previously? And I think that looking at things from this kind of realistic viewpoint and seeing it for what it actually is the thing that allows you to experience more ROMO and JOMO. Because like when you get to look at it and go, okay, this is what it really is. If I miss out on this thing, I'm not focused on just the things that are negative about missing out on this thing. I'm also going to focus on the things that are positive about missing out on this thing. Both can be true, and not looking at this from this one-dimensional standpoint, because I think that's also where what ends up happening is that people feel like they need to experience FOMO or JOMO. It's like one or the other. It's like either you experience this kind of sadness or SOMO, like where you experience this like, oh my God, I really wish I could be there. I want to be there because it's going to be fantastic or anything. Or it's like, oh, thank God I'm not there. I never wanted to be there in the first place. This is amazing. And it's like actually both can be present. And I think that's the thing that I think is most important with all of this, is to acknowledge all of the elements of it and to be like, okay, there is FOMO and ROMO in this. And I just want to make the decision that's going to mean that I experience more ROMO than FOMO. And the same thing with the JOMO and SOMO. It's like, yes, I'm going to experience joy of missing out and I'm going to experience sadness of missing out. But I want to make the decisions that are going to have me experience more joy of missing out and less sadness of missing out. And I think that like each of these have got like a flip side to them, where each of these, yes, we've got these are all the fear, the relief, the sadness and joy of missing out. But I think that can be true of not missing out, or like doing the thing. So it'd be like, it's like fear of doing the thing, relief of doing the thing, sadness of doing the thing, joy of doing the thing. And it's like, each of these have got a flip side where it's like, okay, I'm going to make this decision to do this, because some of those decisions around Fantasy Fest, as using as the example that we are, which is like, I'm going to do this thing. And I'm going to really enjoy the fact, I'm going to have joy of the fact that I've done this thing, and I'm going to get more joy of doing this than I'm going to get sadness of doing this. And my anticipation is that I'm going to have relief that I've made the decision that I'm going to do this, rather than fear of anticipation, my needs are going to get compromised by doing this thing. And so it's like recognizing that each of these things have a flip side. We are focused very much on the not doing things, the missing out on things aspect. And each of these also have a corresponding making the decision aspect. And it's, again, you want to make sure that the things you're making the decisions to do are going to give you more joy and less sadness, and more relief and less fear or anxiety. Because I think that that's really what the fear of missing out is, the anxiety of missing out. And I think that making sure that we are understanding our needs and understanding how not doing things will support our needs and how doing things will support our needs, and making the decisions where we're creating more support for our needs in the choices that we're making, both to and not do things, is where we want to be.
I made a little note and I was looking at it to refer to it. And
I saw you make the note, which is why I paused. I'm like, and?
But I forgot what my note was. So I used to be one of those people that was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like, I'll sleep when the week's over. I'll sleep tonight. You know, like I was always kind of pushing off that kind of foundation function, the real root of the support that creates the rest of our tree. Like it's one of the easiest things to kind of like be like, okay, I'll deal with you later. But it's the thing that will take us out every single time. And this year, there was a lot, because there wasn't an option for me. I am not in a place that is fostering of fantasy fest type vibes. Let's just put it that way. And so it's a much different atmosphere for me. And even in things that I'm like, oh, I want to go to the pumpkin patch, I want to go to the haunted house, I want to do these things, my body is like, you need to rest, you need to do these things. And this year I've been really able to focus on it. And it's like yesterday, I wanted to do a bunch of things. And it's like, I need to take a nap because I'm not feeling well. And I did that. And I feel a lot better than if I had just been like, nope, I can nap when I get home. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I actually think we talked about doing an episode that talks about this. So it might be a good lead in here. But there has been so much joy in meeting my needs and doing what's right for my body and being out of the situation. Like, I don't know that I can say that I think that I've progressively learned and I've taken the experiences, and it's still a slow, it's slow progress when you're in the thick of it, but being like taken completely out of it, I'm like, oh, like, no, I need this sleep. I need this rest. And yes, I can go to this party and I can stay up till 2 a.m. And yes, I can get to work tomorrow and function. And then I can do the same thing the next day. And then, but like the knock-on effect and what's actually happening with the unmet needs, I'm getting lower and lower and lower and not even realizing it. And then all of a sudden I stop. I'm like, oh, how the fuck did I get here? I can't move. Like, right. It's like, it's almost like I'm getting like double JOMO, because thinking about it, I'm getting like a rejoy of the joy of missing out from what I've missed out on. Because I'm like, God, I really took care of myself this year.
Well, and it's interesting actually, because I'm like, as you're speaking this, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting, because I actually think that I have, interestingly enough, I look at the kind of parties aspect, and as I said, a lot of them are kind of meh in some respects. But the interesting thing is, this entire week, I have done it so differently to how I've done it previously. I have left and gone home early. I mean, early by Fantasy Fest terms. I mean, I went out and saw some friends last night, and he was like, oh, I didn't get home till sunrise. I'm like, yeah, good for you. I've been there and done that. Now, it's also okay. So let me finish this thought, and then I'm going to come back to the choice to compromise needs in the short term. So like the first thing is, how I have navigated this week has been completely different to how I've done it previously. So what I mean by that is, there are multiple times this week where I have gone home early. And I said, let's not Fantasy Fest early. But I've gone home pretty early in general. The other thing is, I haven't drunk this week at all. Like, I haven't had a single drop of alcohol. I still haven't drunk since I did the cleanse, which that wasn't my plan going into it. I just don't feel like it right now. And this is like, you're talking about like the zombie bike ride. You have people offering you free shots as you're riding along. Somebody offered me a White Claw. And I'm like, I generally speaking, what I would do is I'd take the shots and hand them off to one of my friends that was drinking, so they could enjoy them. But I haven't drunk a drop of alcohol. I don't think I've ever, in fact, I know I've never done Fantasy Fest and not had a single drink the entire time that I've done it. But that's what felt right to me. Down to the food that we've had. Like, I've had friends of mine who've been like, oh, should we go and have this? And I'm like, I don't think that's going to be the best thing for my system right now. I don't think that I've made very, very different food choices this week to what I would normally do. And I've planned food well. I have.
Have you eaten? Because that's something that
yes.
used to take a back seat during Fantasy Fest. We're like, we'll eat sometime. And then it's like 3 a.m. It's like, I haven't eaten all day.
Yeah. So it's like what I've done is I've had this constant needs lens on this entire week, and I've made choices. And the truth of the matter is, this is the Monday after Fantasy Fest. So Fantasy Fest technically finished yesterday. I don't think I've ever felt this good the Monday after Fantasy Fest, ever. Because I've taken care of my needs the entire way through. And I still went out yesterday evening and had dinner and went to the karaoke bar, and I didn't have the particularly early night that I was intending to have. And we'll get to my second point in a minute, which kind of ties in nicely with what I'm just talking about. But it's like, I have taken care of my needs as I have gone about this week. Now, have I gone all out party hard as a lot of people have? No. Have I enjoyed the things I've done? Yes. Even the headdress ball in the past, I would never have left an event that I was working at. Now, when I say I left the event I was working at the beginning of the event and the end of the event. I wasn't supposed to be working when I left. Don't let me get this straight. But I left in the middle, and I went to sit and have food and take care of myself so I could come back and finish off the event in a way that felt more in alignment for me. I would never have done that previously. I was like, no, this is what I need. And like a friend of mine kept saying, like, should we order ahead so it's ready? I'm like, no, we're going to go. It's nearby. The service there is normally very quick. We're going to go, we're going to sit, we're going to order, we're going to eat, and then we're going to come back. And that's what we did. And it was great. And so I think it did.
Like, there were so many years that we've been like, nah, we couldn't have done, like, the event still went on. Like, there was no, like, did anybody really notice?
We were back in plenty of time. It was like, and they gave us a shout out from the stage, and like one of the organizers like, were you back? Did you hear that? And I was like, yeah, we heard it. We were here. And we were, like, I heard everything. And it's like, so often I'd have been like, I mean, and technically this is an event with a significant ticket, cost to it. I could have sat and watched the event for free. I didn't want to watch the event. I wanted to go and get some food and take care of myself. It was more important to go and take care of myself in that moment than it was to watch the event. I'm sure it was a great event. It normally is. But at that point, this was more important for me. So and again, if you're making choices to do things, having that needs lens on and be like checking in, like the night of Tutu, we went off to this bar. I had a great time. And then the people I was with went back to the Tutu party. And I'm like, see ya. Deuces, I'm out. Like, I'm gone. And it was great. It felt really good leaving at that point because I'm like, I'm still in a good space. Now, the flip side of things, which is the second point I was coming back to, is that it's always this constant balancing act with your needs and what needs are the most important in any one point in time. So, for example, the week that Serena left, foundation function need took a major hit. But it didn't take a hit. We made choices. I made choices to not cultivate that need because in that moment, it was more important for me to be there for Serena to help her with the packing or to be there to celebrate with her and to enjoy fun nights out with her before she left. And this is the thing, is that this is why it's like, I think that people come to us expecting us to be like, okay, here's your checklist and here's how you meet needs. The truth of the matter is it's always changing because in that week, which could have been seen in some ways very similar to our Fantasy Fest week because there was a lot of events and things that we were doing and glitter and confetti and bubbles and all the things. that actually, I don't know if there were bubbles that week. Anyway,
there were, because I was like, oh, I can do Pride and then leave 2 days later. That's totally reasonable.
Oh, yes,
Not totally
indeed.
reasonable for a fairy gay mother who prides during Pride. Like, just make a note of that now. If you're ever considering, don't do it that way.
And so the thing is that in one situation, the truth of the matter is, I know Fantasy Fest is going to be here next year, and I've done Fantasy Fest innumerable times, and I know I will be able to do it again in the future. I also knew that moment that I had with Serena, I wasn't going to get that back again because she was leaving. So I made a conscious choice at that point to go, you know what? Foundation function need is going to take a lower priority than these other needs, and my emotional experience expression, my love and connection need, my personal power need. I'm making choices over this. My value need, I'm taking care of, I'm showing Serena that she's valuable to me, and therefore interconnectedness. So it's like, in the same situation. And like last night was a great example. Last night I did not plan on going. It was the Sunday of Fantasy Fest week, as in the last Sunday of Fantasy Fest week, and by that point everybody is spent. Now, as it turned out, I didn't go out on Friday, I didn't go out on Saturday, for a number of reasons. So I was in a better space than, but part of the reason I didn't go out was because I was sick. So also, like, I took those days to recover, and I went out last night because I had friends who were visiting town who I don't get to see very often, who were leaving this morning. And I'm like, if I don't go and see them for dinner, I mean, they had mentioned lunch today, but here we are. I'm recording right now. That probably wouldn't have happened. And I was like, I would like to see them before they go. And then I found out that friends of ours, their establishment was celebrating their 1 year anniversary. And I'm like, it would be nice to go down and support them. And then I went to the karaoke place that I was going to because somebody who I love and care about, who I may not see again before I leave, was going to be there. So I made all of these choices. I'm like, I could have gone home at 9:30 once I was done with dinner, which had been the plan in the first place. My plan was to go out, have dinner, come back. And no, I decided to go and celebrate with this friend of ours establishment first. And it was very chilled. And we were there for maybe an hour, and then we went and we had dinner. And then it was like, so-and-so has said, bring you to Bobby's. I'm like, really? That was not in my plans for tonight. I'm supposed to be recording podcasts tomorrow, and I'm leaving in a few days, and it's been a busy week. And then I checked in with myself, and I was like, you know what? I'm feeling okay. And so what I did was I got there and I texted them the second I was there. I'm like, okay, so-and-so brought me to Bobby's to see you. I'm recovering from being sick. When are you getting here? So that they knew if they wanted to see me, they had to get their butt down there pretty quickly. And I got back in half an hour. I'm like, I can wait half an hour to see this person. And I stayed a little bit longer so I could actually spend some time with them. And again, I was like, and then I'm like, no, midnight, I'm turning into a pumpkin. And like some of the people are like, oh no, but we miss you. We haven't seen you much recently. And I'm like, I love that. Thank you so much. I love you. Give me a big hug. I'm going home to bed. And so it's like this constant juggling act and kind of balancing act of the different needs, because there's not a right situation. There's not a right choice. It's going to be the right choice in every situation. It is all dependent on what needs are up, how you're going to be able to meet those needs or not meet them in the kind of preceding time frame, and which needs are most important in that point in time. There's going to be a point in time where getting to bed is going to be the most important thing no matter what. At the end of Fantasy Fest last year, I'm telling you, nothing could have dragged me out of my bed. Absolutely. That Sunday, after the Sunday that I went out last night, last year, you could have offered me $1 million to get out of bed, and there is no way I was going anywhere. This year, because I was in a different space, I was able to. And each year, there were different things that were a higher priority from a needs point of view. And when I approached it kind of mindful of that and taking care of that, that's when I had the better experience. And go on.
It's not to say there was a disregard of the needs that we were not prioritizing. Like we said, last year, foundation function, when I left, the Island Foundation function got compromised, and there was a choice. There was active thought around it, and it was a choice. We were enacting our personal power need in making this choice. And yes. It's like, I know I need to sleep, and okay, I can sleep at this point, and we can kind of maneuver our work schedule if we need to take a nap. Like, I want you to think that we're like, oh yeah, we're saying you can just say fuck this need if you're focusing on a different need. That's not how it worked. We made conscious decisions that we knew, it's as Claire said, with the wholeness in the larger picture, we're like, okay, this is going to serve us more in this larger picture. So I don't want, like I said, I want to make it really clear we're not just disregarding, we're prioritizing consciously.
And also in that consciousness, it's like, yes, I'm going to make this decision to prioritize this need over this one right now, but I have a plan for this need. It's not like, oh, fuck foundation function, we're focusing on emotional experience expression right now.
Later.
It's like, okay, I know that on this day, like I know that come Friday, I'm probably going to be able to chill on a boat all day. That's probably what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, I'm going to be seeing my friends. Yeah, we may go grocery shopping. There may be a few things, but there is going to come a point in the first few days that I get to the boat where I'm going to be like, I can chill for a second, even if that's just for 4 hours. And even if we're moving the boat and we're on different shifts, there's going to become a point where it's like they're taking care of things and I can go chill. So I know that there is going to be there is a plan in place for me to be able to take care of those needs. And that plan is what makes that not an abdication of my responsibility around my needs, not a disregard, not a ignoring, not a neglecting of my needs. It's a choice that I am choosing in this moment, knowing very soon afterwards there's probably going to become a situation where I'm going to make a different choice. Anything else you want to add? I saw you making some notes. I just wanted to see if there was anything else that we hadn't captured.
No, we're in each other's heads thoroughly, so I'm good.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again next week with another episode. Between now and then, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today. If you like what you heard and would like to see some of Serena's awesome facial expressions,
check out the video podcast on YouTube.
And remember, by putting a needs lens on things and taking care of your needs, you can experience less FOMO and SOMO and more ROMO and JOMO.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.